Chapter 1. The Return from Shadow. The asteroid field on the edge of Dominion space drifted in silence, its jagged rocks tumbling slowly through the void like the bones of some ancient leviathan. To the senses of passing ships, it appeared as nothing more than stellar debris, a hazard to navigation, unworthy of attention. But hidden within its depths, something far more dangerous lay in wait. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Retribution, her weathered hands gripping the tactical console as she studied the holographic display. The human fleet, ships that represented centuries of preparation and sacrifice, hung motionless in the asteroid field's embrace, their hulls darkened and their engines silent. They had been waiting for 3 hours, and the time for action was finally at hand. "Status report," she commanded, her voice cutting through the bridge's tense silence. "All ships report ready, Commander," replied Lieutenant Torres, his young face bearing the grim determination that had become humanity's defining trait. "The Vengeance, Reckoning, and Defiance are holding position. Weapons are charged, stealth systems are active." Sarah nodded, her eyes never leaving the display. In the distance, the Dominion supply outpost designated Target Alpha hung like a metallic cancer against the stars. It was a fortress station, bristling with defensive weapons and surrounded by patrol ships, a symbol of the Dominion's stranglehold on the galaxy's resources. "Commander," the ship's intelligence officer, Lieutenant Park, approached with a datapad. "Our long-range sensors confirm the Dominion patrol schedule. Admiral Kekstar's fleet will arrive in 18 minutes. 3 supply vessels, 1 destroyer. Minimal escort, exactly as our intelligence predicted." Sarah allowed herself a thin smile. 3 centuries of exile hadn't been wasted. While the Dominion had grown complacent in their dominance, humanity had spent every day planning for this moment. Every ship movement, every patrol route, every weakness in their defenses had been catalogued and studied. "Signaled the fleet," she ordered. "Phase 1 begins now. Remember, we strike fast, we hit hard, and we disappear. The Dominion won't know what hit them until it's too late." She turned to address her crew, seeing the same mixture of anticipation and determination in their faces that had sustained humanity through the long dark years. "Today, we remind the galaxy that humanity remembers," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the bridge. "For those who died in exile, for those who were erased from history, for those who will never see the worlds of our birth week fight." The bridge erupted in quiet activity as the crew prepared for battle. Sarah felt the weight of 3 centuries pressing down on her shoulders, but also the fire of vengeance burning in her heart. The galaxy had forgotten humanity, had dismissed them as myths and legends. Today, they would learn the truth. Chapter 2. The Art of War. The human fleet moved through the asteroid field with predatory grace, their ships weaving between the floating rocks like sharks through coral. Each vessel was a masterpiece of engineering born from necessity and tempered by exile. Smaller than the massive dreadnoughts that had once ruled the galaxy, but infinitely more deadly. "Tactical analysis complete," reported Commander Hayes, the Retribution's weapons officer. "Target Alpha's defensive grid has 17 blind spots. If we approach from Vector 7-7-Mark-4, we can penetrate their sensor perimeter undetected." Sarah studied the tactical display, her mind processing the information with the cold efficiency of a predator. The Dominion outpost was heavily fortified, but its defenses were designed to repel massive fleet assaults, not the surgical strikes that humanity had perfected during their exile. "What about the patrol fleet?" she asked. 3 supply vessels, designation, Prosperity, Abundance, and Harvest, Hayes replied. 1 destroyer, the Dominion's might, standard escort formation, predictable vector. They'll be vulnerable for approximately 4 minutes during their approach to the station. Sarah nodded. 4 minutes, more than enough time for ships that had been built for this exact moment. The human fleet had been designed around a single principle: maximum impact with minimal exposure. They would strike like lightning and vanish like shadows. "Signal the fleet," she commanded. "Begin approach. All ships, maintain radio silence until weapons are free." The Retribution emerged from the asteroid field first, her hull gleaming dully in the starlight. Behind her came the Vengeance, Reckoning, and Defiance, each ship a testament to human ingenuity and rage. Their weapons were charged, their crews ready, their purpose clear. Sarah felt the familiar tension that preceded battle, the electric anticipation that had sustained humanity through 1,000 desperate engagements. But this was different. This wasn't a raid on a pirate base or a skirmish with smugglers. This was the opening move in a war that would reshape the galaxy. "All ships report ready," Torres announced. We are weapons free in 60 seconds. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the presence of every human who had died in exile, every child who had been born between the stars, every warrior who had trained their entire life for this moment. They were all here with her, their spirits demanding justice for 3 centuries of suffering. Begin the attack, she commanded. Chapter 3. The Dragon's Slumber. Admiral Kekstar reviewed the patrol schedule with the weary resignation of a career officer trapped in routine. The Outer Rim patrols were a waste of resources, a meaningless exercise in showing the flag to empty space. In 15 years of commanding the Third Fleet, he had never encountered anything more dangerous than pirates and smugglers. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we're receiving the standard updates from Supply Command. The weekly resource convoy to Outpost Alpha 7 is proceeding on schedule. Kekstar S4 Arms worked the command interfaces with practiced efficiency, his attention focused on the tactical display. The convoy was a small 1-3 supply vessels, and his destroyer, the Dominion's might, hardly the stuff of legend, but it was honest work that kept the Empire's vast machinery running. Maintain course, he ordered. Signal the convoy to prepare for standard docking procedures. I want this resupply completed efficiently. His second-in-command, Captain Vexal, approached with a concerned expression. Sir, we're detecting some unusual sensor readings from the asteroid field. Nothing definitive, but the patterns are ... anomalous. Kekstar's mandibles clicked in irritation. Anomalous, how? Energy signatures that don't match any known phenomena, Vexal replied. The science officer believes they might be equipment malfunctions, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. The Admiral reviewed the data with growing impatience. Sensor ghosts, equipment failures, cosmic phenomena. The Outer Rim was full of false alarms and meaningless anomalies. It was why experienced officers like himself were stuck patrolling the frontier instead of serving in the prestigious Corps. Fleets, probably mineral deposits interfering with our sensors, he dismissed. The asteroid field is known for unusual readings. Continue the mission. But even as he spoke, something deep in his genetic memory stirred an ancestral fear that his species had carried for generations without understanding its origin. The older races remembered things that the younger ones had forgotten. Remembered why certain sectors of space were avoided, why certain frequencies made their skin crawl. Sir, the tactical officer suddenly straightened. I'm detecting multiple contacts emerging from the asteroid field. Configuration unknown. They don't match any ship designs in our database. Kekstar moved to the main display, his confidence wavering as he studied the sensor readings. For ships moving in perfect formation toward his convoy, their profiles were angular, predatory, unlike anything in the Dominion fleet. Identification, he demanded. Unknown, sir. They're not responding to our hails, and their weapon signatures are... Sir, I've never seen anything like this. A chill ran down Kekstar's spine as he stared at the approaching vessels. Something about their movement, their formation, their very presence spoke to fears that went deeper than conscious thought. His species had ruled the galaxy for centuries, but they had not always been the apex predators. Red alert, he commanded. All ships, battle stations, signal the outpost. We may have a problem. Chapter 4. Thunder and lightning. The Retribution screamed through space like an avenging angel, her engines pushing her toward the Dominion convoy with lethal purpose. Around her, the rest of the human fleet maintained perfect formation, their weapons tracking targets with mechanical precision. Range 2 target, 200,000 kilometers and closing, Hayes reported. All weapons are locked and ready. Sarah felt the familiar calm that settled over her in battle, the ice-cold clarity that had kept her alive through countless engagements. The Dominion convoy was spread out in a defensive formation, their ships powerful but predictable. They had grown soft during humanity's absence, comfortable in their role as the galaxy's undisputed masters. Signal the fleet, she ordered. Execute attack pattern Alpha. Target the supply vessels first. Taiwan, their logistics crippled before they can call for reinforcements. The human fleet split into 2 groups, the Retribution and Vengeance, diving toward the convoy's starboard flank while the Reckoning and Defiance approached from port. It was a classic pincer movement, refined and perfected during humanity's exile. Weapons ranged in 30 seconds, Hayes announced. Plasma cannons are charged, railguns are ready, missile tubes are loaded. Sarah watched the tactical display with predatory satisfaction. The Dominion ships were still trying to identify the approaching vessels, their movements hesitant and confused. They had forgotten what it meant to face an enemy that had evolved beyond their understanding. All ships, This is Commander Chen, she broadcast to the fleet. Today, we remind the galaxy that humanity is not extinct. Today, we begin to reclaim what was stolen from us. Fire at will. The Retribution's main batteries unleashed hell. Streams of superheated plasma, refined and perfected during humanity's exile, tore through the void toward the Dominion supply ship Prosperity. The alien vessel's shields flared and died under the assault, its hull buckling as the plasma carved through armor like tissue paper. Across the battlefield, the other human ships pressed their attack. The Vengeance raked the Abundance with railgun fire, her kinetic projectiles punching through the supply ship's hull with devastating effect. The Reckoning and Defiance focused their fire on the Harvest, coordinating their assault with lethal precision. Direct hits on all primary targets, Hayes reported with grim satisfaction. The supply ships are crippled, but the destroyer is moving to engage. Sarah nodded, watching as the Dominion's might turned toward the human fleet with obvious intent. The destroyer was a formidable vessel, larger and more heavily armed than any single human ship, but it was also slow, predictable, and commanded by officers who had never faced humanity's unique approach to warfare. Signal the Defiance, she ordered. Execute Pattern Delta. Let's show Admiral Kextar what he's really facing. Chapter 5. The Moment of Truth. The bridge of the Dominion's might shook under the impact of human weapons, sparks flying from overloaded consoles as the ship's defensive systems struggled to adapt to the alien assault. Admiral Kextar gripped his command chair with all four arms, his mind reeling as he tried to process what he was seeing. Damage report. He bellowed over the chaos. Shields down to 60%, his tactical officer replied. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. The supply ships are... Sir, they're gone. Kextar stared at the tactical display in horror. In less than 5 minutes, his convoy had been systematically dismantled by ships that shouldn't exist, wielding technology that defied everything he thought he knew about warfare. The 3 supply vessels drifted as lifeless hulks, their crews dead or dying in the vacuum of space. Who are they? He demanded. What species uses ships like these? Unknown, sir, came the reply. But sir, the energy signatures, the weapon configurations, they match theoretical projections for what Kextar snapped. For human technology, sir. The old records, the historical databases, this is what their ships were supposed to look like. The Admiral's blood turned to ice. The humans, the myth, the legend, the nightmare that haunted the galaxy's collective unconscious. They were supposed to be extinct, erased from history, nothing more than cautionary tales told to frighten children. Impossible, he whispered. The humans are dead. They've been dead for 3 centuries. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the lead enemy vessel. The figure that appeared was bipedal, smaller than a Dominion warrior but radiating an aura of deadly competence. Her eyes those strange forward-facing predators, eyes fixed on the camera with unwavering intensity. Admiral Kextar, the figure said, her voice carrying across the void with the authority of absolute command. I am Commander Sarah Chen of the Human Expeditionary Force. You dismissed us as myths, erased us from history, claimed our worlds as your own. Kextar tried to speak, but his voice caught in his throat. The humans, they were real, they were here, and they were nothing like the primitive savages described in the sanitized historical records. You thought extinction had claimed us, Chen continued, her words cutting through the bridge's stunned silence. You were wrong. We have endured, we have adapted, and we have returned. Today, we begin to reclaim what was stolen from us. The human commander leaned forward, and Kextar saw something in her eyes that made his genetic memory scream warnings. The cold, calculating gaze of a predator that had evolved beyond mercy. Signal your masters, Chen commanded. Tell them that humanity remembers. Tell them that we are coming for what is ours. Tell them that the age of the Dominion is ending. Chapter 6. The message delivered. The Retribution held position near the wreckage of the Dominion convoy, her weapons trained on the crippled destroyer with mechanical precision. Sarah Chen stood on her bridge, watching as emergency crews from the Dominion's might worked desperately to contain the damage from the human assault. Commander Lieutenant Torres reported. We're detecting multiple Dominion ships responding to the destroyer's distress signal. Estimate arrival in 4 hours. Sarah nodded. They had expected this. The Dominion's response to the destruction of their convoy would be swift and overwhelming. It didn't matter. This battle had never been about winning a single engagement. It had been about sending a message, and that message was now being delivered. Signal Admiral Kextar, she commanded. I want to speak with him one final time. The main screen flickered to life, showing the Dominion commander's bridge. Kexter looked haggard, his forearms trembling as he struggled to maintain composure. Behind him, his crew worked frantically to repair the damage from the human attack. "Admiral," Sarah began, her voice carrying across the void like a death sentence. "Your convoy is destroyed. Your supply lines are cut. Your crew knows terror for the first time in their lives. This is what defeat looks like." Kextar's mandibles clicked nervously. What do you want?" "What we've always wanted," Sarah replied. "What was taken from us, what is ours by right of conquest and blood." She paused, letting the words sink in. "Everything." She stepped closer to the camera, her eyes boring into the alien commander's soul. "But today, I offer you a choice. You can return to your masters and deliver this message. Humanity has returned. We remember every world you stole, every species you enslaved, every act of genocide you committed in our name. We remember it all, and we have come to collect the debt." The silence on the Dominion bridge was deafening. Every officer, every crew member understood the implication. The humans were not seeking negotiation or compromise. They were announcing their intention to reclaim their lost empire, and they possessed the power to do it. "You have 72 hours, Sarah continued. "In 3 days, our forces will begin the liberation of the core worlds. You can surrender your territories and accept whatever fate we deem appropriate. Or you can fight and watch your civilization burn. The choice is yours." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle over the Dominion survivors. "But know this, Admiral, your kind has ruled the galaxy for 3 centuries. We ruled it for 3 millennia. We built the foundations upon which your empire stands, and we know exactly how to tear it down." The transmission ended, leaving the Dominion crew alone with their terror and their impossible choice. Sarah turned to her officers, seeing the same grim determination in their eyes that had sustained humanity through the long exile. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Form up for departure. We've delivered our message. Now we prepare for the real war." Chapter 7. The storm unleashed as the human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, their ships vanishing like ghosts into the darkness between stars. Admiral Kextar sat in his damaged command center, staring at the communication panel that would carry his report to the Dominion High Command. The words came slowly, each one a confession of failure and a harbinger of doom. He described the human ships, their weapons, their tactics, their terrifying efficiency. He transmitted the recordings of Commander Chen's ultimatum, her cold promise of retribution for crimes committed 3 centuries ago. But most importantly, he conveyed the truth that would shake the Dominion Empire to its foundations. Humanity was not extinct. They had returned, and they possessed the power to challenge the galaxy's established order. Asterisk. Hours later, on the capital world of Dominion Prime, Empress Exana received the transmission in her private chamber. The supreme ruler of the Dominion Empire, a being who had never known fear or doubt, felt her confidence waver as she watched the recordings of humanity's return. "Summon the High Command," she ordered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Activate all fleet reserves. Send word to our allies, we may need their assistance." But even as she spoke, she knew that the galaxy had changed forever. The age of Dominion supremacy was ending, and the age of human retribution was about to begin. In the depths of space, the human fleet regrouped around their mobile command station, a massive vessel that had served as humanity's capital during their long exile. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the war room, surrounded by her staff officers as they planned the next phase of their campaign. "Initial reports are coming in from our intelligence networks," reported Commander Park. "The Dominion is mobilizing. Their entire fleet, they're pulling ships from every sector, abandoning their outer colonies to mass at the core worlds." "Good," Sarah replied. "Fear makes them predictable." "What about the other species?" "Mixed reactions," answered Admiral Kovac. "Some are declaring neutrality, others are actively supporting the Dominion. But there are encouraging signs. Former vassal races are already declaring independence." Sarah nodded, studying the holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. The Dominion's response was exactly what they had expected, a massive concentration of force, designed to crush the human fleet in a single decisive battle. It was a strategy that might have worked against any other enemy, but humanity was not any other enemy. They had spent 3 centuries learning to fight differently, to think differently, to win against impossible odds. The Dominion's conventional tactics would be useless against an enemy that had evolved beyond their understanding. "Signal all fleet commanders," Sarah ordered. "Begin Phase 2 of Operation Lazarus. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity has become." Epilogue. The die is cast. The battle for the galaxy had begun, but the true war was yet to come. Across the star systems, ancient alliances crumbled as species that had served the Dominion for centuries suddenly remembered their own grievances against their overlords. The careful balance of power that had maintained galactic stability for 300 years was elapsing. In the shadows of the galaxy, other powers took note of humanity's return. Ancient enemies stirred from their slumber, sensing opportunity in the chaos. The Dominion's desperate calls for aid had been heard by forces older and darker than any mortal species, beings that had their own reasons for opposing humanity's resurgence. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the Retribution, watching the stars wheel past as her fleet moved toward its next target. The first strike had been a complete success. The Dominion knew they were facing an enemy that possessed both the will and the power to challenge their supremacy. But this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, the Dominion's forces were formidable, and humanity's enemies were numerous. The war that was coming would test every lesson learned during the long exile, every innovation born from necessity, every alliance forged in the darkness between stars. Ma'am, Lieutenant Torres approached with a datapad. We're receiving reports from our scout fleets. The Dominion is massing their forces at the Centauri system. It looks like they're preparing for a major engagement. Sarah smiled, feeling the familiar thrill of approaching battle. The Dominion wanted a decisive confrontation, a single battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. They would get their wish, but not in the way they expected. Signal the fleet, she ordered. Set course for the Centauri system. It's time to remind the galaxy why humanity once ruled the stars. As the human fleet accelerated toward its destiny, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The first strike had been delivered, the gauntlet had been thrown, and the galaxy would never be the same. The age of retribution had begun, and nothing would stop humanity from reclaiming their rightful place among the stars. The war for tomorrow had begun, and the shadows of the past were finally coming home. Next time, the Battle of Centauri, where the full might of the Dominion Empire will collide with humanity's unstoppable advance. But as the two fleets prepare for their ultimate confrontation, ancient powers stir in the darkness, and the true enemy reveals itself. Will humanity's long-awaited vengeance be enough to face the darkness that approaches, or will their return herald not victory, but the end of all things? The galaxy burns, and the real war is just beginning.